Highest to Lowest is the latest movie from Spike Lee, and it's a not quite remake, but more of a reimagining of High and Low from Akira Kurosawa. This movie is led and carried by Denzel Washington, playing David King, a music producer and owner of a big music label in the hip hop industry in New York, as well as Jeffrey Wright, who's playing somewhat of his right hand man, his friend who he helped out of hard times, who's somewhat recently gotten out of prison, and ASAP Rocky as our kidnapper. These are our three pillars of the movie, the three pillars this movie revolves around, is built upon. The story kicks off with a company trying to buy Denzel's record label, and he's hesitant to sell because he doesn't want to sell out his artist. This movie has really interesting themes and has an interesting conversation around ownership of art and promoting artists for the sake of the art itself, not so much making as much money as possible. David, played by Denzel, is in a real squeeze trying to find the balance, trying to get his family set up as well as possible while also leaving his artist in a good spot to where they're not just going to be taken advantage of by the next company to come in and buy everything out. But in the midst of all of this, his son and Jeffrey Wright's character's son, something happens where they go missing, there's a kidnapping, and ASAP Rocky is demanding $17.5 million from him, which throws a real wrench in his attempt to save his record label, to stop us all from going through. And it's this dilemma that we live through. This movie is so vibrant and dripping with sauce and creativity. It's a real joy to watch. It's a pleasure, and it's a real look and insight into a love letter of New York and New York culture and all of the different subcultures within New York. It's really interesting, but it is far from a perfect movie. It's really in the pocket. It's really cooking for about an hour and a half. The problem is the movie's 2 hours and 13 minutes. The opening half hour and then the last 10-15 minutes are really just weak. It's not up to snuff. It's a good thing that Spike Lee has been given this creative freedom from Apple to make the art he wants to make. I believe in that and support that fully. It's amazing. But the problem is somebody needs to tell him no sometimes, or maybe snip that. The first half hour or so really is dragged down a lot by the actress playing Denzel's wife and son, as well as Jeffrey Wright's son. I don't want to speak too poorly of them, but I was not a big fan of their performances. I think it was somewhere between they weren't giving the best performance, they didn't have maybe the best material to work with, and on top of that, they were being outshone by Denzel in almost every scene they were in. So they really seemed not up to par with what Denzel was giving us. And man, did Denzel give us a lot. This is the most Denzel he's been in a movie in a long time. He has a quote where he said that he's not a movie actor, he's a stage actor who happens to be in movies, and this really strikes home. His performance here reminds me a lot of his performance in 2021's Macbeth. David's nickname here is King David, and he very much gives that same neurotic king energy that he has in Macbeth. It's a really similar performance in a great way. I think Macbeth was one of his best performances ever, and he's channeling a lot of that. He brings these high airs with him. He's very royal. He's reminding me not only of Macbeth, but also the performance he gave in Gladiator 2. He's very comfortable in this role, playing a king, playing a above the rest, above the fray kind of figure. And ASAP Rocky drags him back down into the muck, back down to where he came from. And it's a really interesting story of a man being brought back to his roots, brought back down from the high tower he lives in, to have to reconcile with who he really is, who he comes from, what he really cares about and believes in. And all of this is surrounded by really creative filmmaking from Spike Lee. Interesting editing, some in the beginning that I thought was choppy, but then as the movie went on, you realize it's more of a stylistic choice, and it's a choice I'm so happy Spike Lee made. I do have one minor complaint with Highest to Lowest, in that it's sort of an old man movie. Not in a bad way exactly, but in that there's certain things that happen where it's like, okay, everyone involved in this production is 45 plus. Like there's a scene where Denzel has to chase someone on foot, and he's an amazing actor, but he's an old man now. He can't quite bring that same physicality, and it's playing pretend a little bit, which it's a movie. You can suspend your disbelief to a certain degree, but there was a few things where it was a bit too far of a stretch for me. ASAP Rocky is superb as this struggling actor, this wannabe star, this person who's idolized King David his whole life and wants him to give him a chance, to shine. And after he doesn't get it, he loses hope somewhat and takes that chance. He becomes this kidnapper and he loses himself somewhat. But in the midst of all this, he makes great music. The music is so important in this movie. Obviously, Denzel's character is a music executive, but music is so central to this movie. There's a scene about a half hour in when the movie really kicks on and starts to get into the pocket, where the score transports you onto the subway with Denzel in New York. It's so immersive and rich, and Spike Lee does such a interesting job weaving that music into his story, both with diegetic music and non-diegetic music that is transitioning from being on screen for us to in the world for the characters and vice versa. I'm so happy ASAP Rocky is coming back to acting. I know he has another role coming up soon, and he is a person who needs to be in movies because he is truly a great actor. He has the sauce, man. He has what what it takes. I think he could be a real star if he spent more time making movies, making TV shows, being an actor, because I think he can be one of the greats if he fully commits to it and spends the time pushing out great art. But also too, if I was married to Rihanna and just had a kid, I might not be as motivated sitting on a few million married to a billionaire. No need to really push yourself as hard as possible to make the most art, even though I think that the world could use A$AP Rocky acting in more stuff, because every time I see him, I'm impressed. Jeffrey Wright is kind of our third fiddle. He probably has the second most screen time, but he's in essence the third fiddle to the dynamic happening between A$AP Rocky and Denzel's characters. But I wasn't the biggest fan of his performance. He was kind of walking the line between committing to the bit and maybe not going too far, but I just didn't love what they did with his character, what he was doing with the character, despite being a great actor, wonderful actor. The police in Highest to Lowest are hilariously dumb. They're so dumb that at points it takes away from the story a little bit. There's a point where a character solves a mystery they're trying to figure out, and they're just like, no, we're busy doing nothing. We're busy not getting any answers. Can you please leave us alone? And Spike Lee did that on purpose. He was making a point, obviously critiquing the police in a certain way, but the fact that they had Mayhem from Allstate playing one of the main cops, it took me out of the movie a little bit at points, despite the fact that he was entertaining. This movie is at its worst when it's away from Denzel. It gets off to a slow start in that first half hour before hitting its stride when we leave Denzel's family behind a little bit. Towards the end, there was a perfect chance to end the movie on a really definitive, clean note that I thought would have been perfect, but they went about 2 scenes too long afterwards. It was a little Return of the Kingy. It was like, this movie, it's over. It's ended. We're just kind of hanging around with these characters still. Didn't need to keep on going for as long as it did. I want to give Highest to Lowest a really high score because when it's in the pocket for a full hour and a half, it is enthralling and really engaging and super creative and makes you feel things and looks amazing. Unfortunately, that 90 minutes is sandwiched between a really weak opening and a really weak last 2 scenes. So as much as I would love to give this movie a higher score, I'm going to give Highest to Lowest a 7, but definitely recommend that it's worth seeing. It's worth spending the time to go to the theater and go check this out, because for about an hour and a half, it is engaging and beautiful. If you're looking for a movie to go see this weekend, go see Highest to Lowest. It's the best thing in theaters released this week. Thanks so much for watching. Please let me know below what you thought of it, or what's your favorite Denzel movie where he's going full Denzel. This thing is up there with Macbeth for me, but let me know below. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.